What if everything you're chasing right now is completely meaningless? Imagine achieving your greatest dreams, wealth beyond measure, fame, power, pleasure, only to discover it was all empty. This is exactly what happened to King Solomon, the richest and wisest man in ancient history. He conducted the ultimate experiment, testing every path to happiness that humanity has ever known. He pursued knowledge until his mind ached, built architectural wonders that amazed nations, filled his palaces with gold and servants, and tasted every pleasure imaginable. Nothing was off limits, nothing was too extravagant. And then he wrote Ecclesiastes, a book so raw and honest, it still makes people uncomfortable thousands of years later. Why? Because Solomon concluded that everything under the sun is vanity, chasing after wind. But wait, before you think this is just a depressing ancient text, understand this. Ecclesiastes contains the secret to a truly meaningful life. Solomon's brutal honesty about what doesn't work clears the path to what actually does. This book will challenge your career ambitions, your relationship goals, your definition of success, and even how you view death itself. By the end, you'll never see your daily life the same way again. This is Ecclesiastes, the book that destroys our illusions to build something far greater. The words of the teacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem, begin with a statement that would echo through centuries. In chapter 1, verse 2, he declares, "Vanity of vanities," says the teacher, "vanity of vanities, all is vanity." This wasn't just poetry. This was the conclusion of a man who had seen everything life could offer. He looked at the world around him and asked a simple question in verse 3. What does man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun? Then he started pointing out what he saw. A generation goes and another generation comes, but the earth stays the same forever. The sun rises, the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises again. The wind blows south, then turns north, round and round it goes, always returning on its course. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place the streams come from, there they return again. Everything was moving, everything was working, but nothing was actually changing. In verse 8 he says, "All things are full of weariness, a man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing." People keep looking, keep listening, keep searching, but they're never satisfied. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. There's nothing new under the sun. Someone might say they found something new, something different, but verse 10 asks, "Is there a thing of which it is said, 'See, this is new'? It has been already in the ages before us. Even the people who came before us are forgotten." The teacher knew that the people who come after won't be remembered either by those who come even later. Everything just keeps repeating, and nobody remembers. This was the first problem he identified. All our hard work doesn't lead anywhere that lasts. The teacher had a unique position. He wasn't just anyone making these observations. In verse 12, he identifies himself. "I, the teacher, have been king over Israel in Jerusalem." He had power, resources, and most importantly, wisdom that no one else possessed. So he decided to use it all to figure out life. In verse 13, he explains what he did. "And I applied my heart to seek and to search out by wisdom all that is done under heaven." This wasn't casual thinking. He devoted himself completely to understanding everything that happens in the world. It was a serious investigation, using all the wisdom God had given him. But then he discovered something unexpected. He calls it an unhappy business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. He examined everything that happens under the sun, and his conclusion in verse 14 was sobering. "Behold, all is vanity and a striving after wind." Imagine chasing wind. You run after it, reach out your hands, but you can't catch it, you can't hold it. That's what all human activity looked like to him. Then came an even harder truth in verse 15. What is crooked cannot be made straight, and what is lacking cannot be counted. Some things in life are just broken, and you can't fix them no matter how smart you are. Some things are missing, and you can't make them appear. Wisdom showed him the limits of what humans can do, but he didn't stop there. In verse 16 he says, "I said in my heart, I have acquired great wisdom, surpassing all who were over Jerusalem before me, and my heart has had great experience of wisdom and knowledge." He had more wisdom than anyone. If anyone could find answers, it was him. Verse 17 continues, "And I applied my heart to know wisdom, and to know madness and folly. I perceived that this also is but a striving after wind." Here's where it gets really interesting. He didn't just study wisdom, he studied foolishness too. He wanted to understand both sides completely, and his discovery, even that was like chasing wind. The final blow comes in verse 18, "For in much wisdom is much vexation, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow." The smarter you get, the more problems you see. The more you understand, the more pain you feel. Wisdom itself brought its own kind of suffering. If wisdom led to sorrow, maybe pleasure was the answer. So the teacher tried something completely different. Chapter 2, verse 1 records his next experiment. "I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy yourself." But behold, this also was vanity. He jumped into pleasure with both feet, determined to find satisfaction there. Verse 2 shows his discovery. "I said of laughter, it is mad, and of pleasure, what use is it?" Laughter felt crazy, empty. Pleasure didn't seem to accomplish anything real, but he didn't give up easily. Verse 3 explains, "I searched with my heart how to cheer my body with wine, my heart still guiding me with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly till I might see what was good for the children of man to do under heaven during the few days of their life." Notice he kept his wisdom even while testing pleasure. He wasn't being reckless. He was conducting a careful experiment. He wanted to know what's actually worth doing in our short lives. Then he went big, really big. Verses 4 through 6 describe his projects. "I made great works. I built houses and planted vineyards for myself. I made myself gardens and parks and planted in them all kinds of fruit trees. I made myself pools from which to water the forest of growing trees." He became a master builder, creating beauty everywhere. Verse 7 continues, "I bought male and female slaves, and had slaves who were born in my house. I had also great possessions of herds and flocks, more than any who had been before me in Jerusalem." He accumulated wealth and workers beyond imagination. Verse 8 adds, "I also gathered for myself silver and gold, and the treasure of kings and provinces. I got singers, both men and women, and many concubines, the delight of the sons of man." He had entertainment, luxury, and pleasure of every kind. Verse 9 declares, "So I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also, my wisdom remained with me." He was at the top, greater than everyone, and still wise enough to evaluate it all. Here's the key part in verse 10. "And whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil." He denied himself nothing. If he wanted it, he got it. The work itself brought some joy. But then came the evaluation. Verse 11 records the devastating conclusion, "Then I considered all that my hands had done and the toil I had expended in doing it. And behold, all was vanity and a striving after wind, and there was nothing to be gained under the sun." After everything, all the building, all the wealth, all the pleasure, he looked back and saw emptiness. It was all wind chasing again. There was no real gain. The teacher decided to compare wisdom and foolishness directly. Verse 12 asks, "So I turned to consider wisdom and madness and folly. What can the man do who comes after the king? Only what has already been done." He was looking at the options available to any human being. What can anyone do that hasn't been tried? Verse 13 gives his first finding. Then I saw that there is more gain in wisdom than in folly, as there is more gain in light than in darkness. Wisdom does have an advantage. It's like the difference between light and darkness, obvious and real. Verse 14 explains, the wise person has his eyes in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. A wise person can see where they're going. A fool stumbles around blind. That's a real difference, a real advantage. Wisdom helps you navigate life better than foolishness. You make better decisions, avoid obvious traps, understand what's happening around you. But then comes the word that changes everything. Yet I perceived that the same event happens to all of them. The same event. The same fate. Both the wise and the fool end up in the same place. Verse 15 continues his thoughts. Then I said in my heart, what happens to the fool will happen to me also. Why then have I been so very wise? And I said in my heart that this also is vanity. What's the point of being wise if you end up exactly where the fool ends up? Death doesn't care about your wisdom. Death doesn't give you a pass because you made smart choices. The wise person dies. The fool dies. Same destination. Verse 16 makes it worse. For of the wise as of the fool, there is no enduring remembrance, seeing that in the days to come, all will have been long forgotten. How the wise dies just like the fool. Not only do both die, but both are forgotten. Time erases the memory of the genius and the idiot equally. Future generations won't remember either one. This realization hit him hard. Verse 17 records his emotional response. So I hated life, because what is done under the sun was grievous to me, for all is vanity and a striving after wind. He actually hated life. Everything happening under the sun felt wrong, oppressive. It all came back to that same conclusion: vanity chasing wind. The teacher's frustration grew when he thought about what happens to everything he worked for. Verse 18 says, I hated all my toil in which I toil under the sun, seeing that I must leave it to the man who will come after me. All that work, all those accomplishments, all that wealth, he can't take it with him. Someone else gets it. Verse 19 adds the uncertainty, and who knows whether he will be a wise man or a fool. Yet he will be master of all for which I toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. This also is vanity. He can't control who gets his stuff. He can't guarantee they'll be smart about it. Some fool might inherit everything and waste it all. Or a wise person might get it. But either way, the teacher doesn't get to keep what he worked for. This thought made him despair. Verse 20 admits, So I turned about and gave my heart up to despair over all the toil of my labors under the sun. He gave up to despair. That's how strongly this bothered him. Verse 21 explains why. Because sometimes a person who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave everything to be enjoyed by someone who did not toil for it. This also is vanity and a great evil. You work hard, use your brain, develop skills, build something, and then you have to leave it to someone who contributed nothing. They get to enjoy what you sweated for. That's not just vanity. He calls it a great evil. Verses 22 and 23 ask the hard questions. What has a man from all the toil and striving of heart with which he toils beneath the sun? For all his days are full of sorrow, and his work is a vexation. Even in the night his heart does not rest. This also is vanity. What do you actually get from all your hard work? Days full of pain, work that frustrates you. Nights where you can't even rest because you're thinking about everything. And the conclusion, vanity again, but here something shifts. After all the darkness, the teacher offers different advice. Verse 24 says, There is nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This also I saw is from the hand of God. Eat, drink, find enjoyment in your work. Simple things, basic things. And these come from God's hand. Verse 25 continues, For apart from him who can eat or who can have enjoyment. Without God, even eating doesn't satisfy. Even pleasure feels empty. God is the source of being able to enjoy anything at all. Verse 26 reveals how God distributes these gifts. For to the one who pleases him, God has given wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner he has given the business of gathering and collecting, only to give to one who pleases God. This also is vanity and a striving after wind. God gives good things to those who please him. But sinners, they work and gather, and then everything they collected goes to someone else, someone who pleases God. Even that system is vanity, but it shows God's control over everything. This is the first time the teacher points to something outside the human struggle. Yes, it's still vanity under the sun. Yes, work is still hard. Yes, we all die. But there's a hand above it all, God's hand. And from that hand comes the ability to enjoy the simple things. Without him, nothing satisfies. With him, even basic daily life can bring joy. Chapter 3 opens with one of the most famous passages in all of Scripture. Verse 1 states the principle, "For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. Everything has its moment. Everything has its right time." Then comes the beautiful poem in verses 2 through 8, "A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace, birth and death, planting and harvesting, killing and healing, breaking down and building up, weeping and laughing, mourning and dancing, throwing away and gathering, embracing and refraining, seeking and losing, keeping and discarding, tearing and sowing, silence and speaking, love and hate, war and peace. All of it has its season. All of it has its time. Verse 9 then asks, what gain has the worker from his toil? It's the same question from earlier. If everything just happens in its time anyway, what does the worker gain? What's the profit of all the labor? Verse 10 gives the observation, I have seen the business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. God gave humans this task, this business of living through all these times and seasons. Verse 11 reveals something important. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity into man's heart, yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. God makes everything beautiful in its proper time. There's an order to it, a rightness to it. But here's the mystery. God put eternity in our hearts. We have this sense of forever, this awareness of something beyond the moment. Yet we can't figure out God's complete plan. We can't see from beginning to end. We're stuck in time, aware of eternity, but unable to grasp the whole picture. Verse 12 draws a conclusion from this situation. I perceived that there is nothing better for them than to be joyful and to do good as long as they live. Since we can't understand everything, since we can't see the whole plan, the best thing is to be joyful and do good while we're alive. Verse 13 adds, also that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in all his toil. This is God's gift to man. Again, the simple things. Eating, drinking, finding pleasure in work. These aren't just activities. They're gifts from God. The ability to enjoy these things comes from Him. Verse 14 reveals something permanent in all the change. I perceived that whatever God does endures forever. Nothing can be added to it, nor anything taken from it. God has done it so that people fear before Him. While everything under the sun is vanity, while everything changes and passes, what God does lasts forever. You can't add to it. You can't take from it. It's complete and permanent, and this reality should make people fear God. Verse 15 shows the pattern. That which is already has been. That which is to be already has been. And God seeks what has been driven away. Everything repeats. The future looks like the past. And God seeks what has been driven away. He brings back what was lost or forgotten. Then the teacher noticed something troubling in the world. Verse 16 says, "Moreover, I saw under the sun that in the place of justice, even there was wickedness, and in the place of righteousness, even there was wickedness. Even where justice should be, you find evil. Even where righteousness should rule, wickedness shows up. The places that should be safe aren't safe." Verse 17 gives his response. "I said in my heart, God will judge the righteous and the wicked. For there is a time for every matter and for every work. God will judge both. There's a time coming for that judgment. Every matter has its time, remember? Judgment has its time too." Verses 18 and 19 reveal God's purpose in all this. "I said in my heart, with regard to the children of man, that God is testing them, that they may see that they themselves are but beasts. For what happens to the children of man and what happens to the beasts is the same. As one dies, so dies the other. They all have the same breath, and man has no advantage over the beasts, for all is vanity. God tests people to show them they're like animals. Same thing happens to humans and animals. Both breathe, both die. From this perspective, humans have no advantage. It's all vanity." Verse 20 continues, "All go to one place. All are from the dust, and to dust all return. Everything came from dust. Everything goes back to dust. One destination for all." Verse 21 asks the question nobody can answer. "Who knows whether the spirit of man goes upward and the spirit of the beast goes down into the earth? Does the human spirit go somewhere different than the animal spirit? Nobody knows for sure. Nobody has come back to tell us." So verse 22 returns to the practical conclusion. "So I saw that there is nothing better than that a man should rejoice in his work, for that is his lot. Who can bring him to see what will be after him? Enjoy your work. That's your portion in life. You can't see the future. You can't know what happens after you die. So take the portion you have and find joy in it." The teacher's eyes turn to a painful reality happening all around him. Chapter 4 verse 1 describes what he saw. "Again, I saw all the oppressions that are done under the sun. And behold, the tears of the oppressed, and they had no one to comfort them. On the side of their oppressors there was power, and there was no one to comfort them. People were crying. They were being crushed by those in power. And the worst part, nobody was there to help them. No comforter, no helper. Just tears and power on the wrong side. The oppressors had all the strength, and the oppressed had nothing but their pain. This wasn't a small problem. This was everywhere he looked. Under the sun, meaning in this world, in everyday life, oppression was the norm. Strong people taking advantage of weak people. And those weak people, they stood alone. No one came to their defense. No one stood up for them. The power stayed exactly where it was, in the hands of the oppressors. This sight hit the teacher so hard that he made a shocking statement in verse 2, "And I thought the dead more fortunate than the living who are still alive. The dead are better off than the living." Think about that. It's better to be dead than to watch all this suffering and be unable to stop it. Better to be gone than to witness the oppression day after day with no power to change it. But he went even further in verse 3, "But better than both is he who has not yet been and has not seen the evil deeds that are done under the sun." Better than being dead? Never being born at all. The person who never existed, who never had to witness all the evil happening in the world, that person is the most fortunate of all. This is how deeply the injustice affected him. When you see oppression everywhere and nobody doing anything about it, life itself starts to feel like a curse rather than a blessing. Then the teacher noticed something about why people work so hard. Verse 4 reveals the truth. "Then I saw that all toil and all skill in work come from a man's envy of his neighbor. This also is vanity and a striving after wind. Every achievement, every skill, every hard work, it all comes from envy." People aren't working because they love the work. They're not creating because they're passionate about building something beautiful. They're working because they want what someone else has. They want to be better than the person next to them. They see their neighbor's car, their neighbor's house, their neighbor's success, and they want more, nicer, bigger. That's the fuel driving most of human effort. It's competition disguised as productivity. It's comparison dressed up as ambition. And what does the teacher call it? Vanity, wind chasing. You're running a race where the finish line keeps moving because someone else always has something you don't. You're never satisfied because there's always another neighbor to envy. Verse 5 shows one extreme. The fool folds his hands and eats his own flesh. The fool does nothing. He just sits there lazy, refusing to work, and he destroys himself. His inactivity ruins him. He consumes his own life through laziness. That's one ditch to avoid. But verse 6 shows there's a better way than both the envious worker and the lazy fool. Better is a handful of quietness than 2 hands full of toil and a striving after wind. 1 handful of peace beats 2 handfuls of exhausting work that goes nowhere. You don't need to kill yourself trying to outdo everyone. You don't need to chase what your neighbor has. You don't need both hands full of stress and competition. A little bit with quietness, with peace of mind, with contentment. That's better than a lot with all that stress, anxiety, and endless striving. But most people can't accept this. They keep running the race, trying to beat others, driven by envy that never satisfies, always needing more to feel like they've won. The teacher saw another tragedy in the world. Verse 7 says, "Again I saw vanity under the sun." Here comes another example of meaninglessness. Then verse 8 describes a specific person, one person who has no other, either son or brother, yet there is no end to all his toil. And his eyes are never satisfied with riches, so that he never asks, "For whom am I toiling and depriving myself of pleasure?" This also is vanity and an unhappy business. Here's someone completely alone. No family, no partner, no children, no brother, just himself. And he works endlessly. He never stops. There's no end to his labor. He keeps accumulating wealth, but his eyes are never satisfied with riches. He always wants more. He always needs the next thing, and here's what's tragic. He never stops to ask the obvious question. For whom am I toiling and depriving myself of pleasure? Who are you working for? You have no family to provide for, no children to leave an inheritance to, no partner to build a life with. So why are you killing yourself? Why are you denying yourself joy? Who benefits from all this? He doesn't ask, because asking would reveal the emptiness of it all. He just keeps his head down and works. It's vanity and an unhappy business, a miserable way to live. But then the teacher explains the alternative. Verse 9 states, 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward for their toil. Working together is better than working alone. You actually get more out of it. The return is better. Life is better. Verse 10 gives a practical example. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up. When you fall, and everyone falls at some point, having someone there to help you up is everything. They extend a hand. They pull you back to your feet. They get you going again. But being alone when you fall, that's terrible. You lie there with nobody to help, nobody to care. Nobody even notices you're down. You have to struggle back up by yourself, and sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just stay down. Verse 11 continues with another example. Again, if 2 lie together, they keep warm, but how can one keep warm alone? 2 people together can keep each other warm. They share heat. They comfort each other. But one person alone gets cold. There's no warmth, no comfort. It's simple but true. Verse 12 adds the security factor. And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, 2 will withstand him. A 3-fold cord is not quickly broken. If someone attacks you and you're alone, you might lose. You might get overpowered. But 2 people together can defend themselves. They're stronger together, and 3 together, even stronger. A rope made of 3 cords doesn't break easily. You can pull on it, stress it, and it holds. That's what community does. It makes you stronger. It gives you resilience you can't have alone. Community matters. Relationships matter. Going through life alone, no matter how successful you are, no matter how much wealth you accumulate, is miserable. You need people. You need someone to fall back on, someone to keep you warm, someone to stand with you. Success without anyone to share it with is just another form of vanity. The teacher looked at the political world and saw the same vanity there too. Verse 13 presents a scenario. Better was a poor and wise youth than an old and foolish king who no longer knew how to take advice. A young person with wisdom but no money beats an old king who's foolish and won't listen to anyone. Think about that comparison. The king has everything: the throne, the authority, the wealth, the experience, years of ruling. But he stopped listening. He became a fool. He thinks he knows everything and doesn't need advice anymore. And that attitude makes him worse than a poor young person who has nothing but wisdom. Age doesn't guarantee wisdom. Power doesn't guarantee sense. Experience doesn't mean you're right. If you stop listening, you become a fool no matter how high your position. Verse 14 continues the story of this young person. For he went from prison to the throne, though in his own kingdom he had been born poor. This young person came from nothing. He was born poor in that very kingdom. He might have even been in prison at some point. The lowest of the low. No advantages, no privileges, no connections, but he rose. He went from prison to the throne, from the bottom to the top. His wisdom took him places his birth never could. It's a rags to riches story that people love. Verse 15 shows what happened next. I saw all the living who move about under the sun, along with that youth who was to stand in the king's place. Everyone rallied around this young successor. The crowds were massive. All the living people moving about under the sun, that's everybody, and they all supported the new leader. He was popular. He was celebrated. He had the people's love. But here's the twist in verse 16. There was no end of all the people, all of whom he led. Yet those who come later will not rejoice in him. Surely this also is vanity and a striving after wind. Endless crowds followed him. There was no end to the people. He led all of them. He was the hero, the new hope, the answer everyone was waiting for. But the next generation, they won't care about him. They won't celebrate him. They won't rejoice in him. They'll move on to the next leader, the next hero, the next person who promises to fix everything. And they'll forget this guy just like they forgot the king before him. Political power is temporary. Popularity fades. The crowds that cheer you today will forget you tomorrow. Every generation thinks their leader is special, thinks this time is different, thinks this person will actually change things. But then time passes and nobody remembers. The next generation has their own problems and their own heroes. It's all vanity and striving after wind. Now the teacher shifts to how people approach God. Chapter 5, verse 1 warns, guard your steps when you go to the house of God. To draw near to listen is better than to offer the sacrifice of fools. For they do not know that they are doing evil. When you go to worship, when you go to meet with God, watch how you walk. Pay attention. Be careful. Don't just rush in thoughtlessly. Drawing near to listen, actually paying attention to what God says, is better than offering sacrifices like fools do. What's wrong with the fool's sacrifice? They don't even realize they're doing evil. They show up, go through the motions, perform the rituals, but they're not actually listening to God. They're not there to hear. They're there to be seen, to check a box, to feel religious. And they don't even know that this is wrong. They think they're doing great. Verse 2 continues with a warning about speech. Be not rash with your mouth, nor let your heart be hasty to utter a word before God. For God is in heaven, and you are on earth. Therefore let your words be few. Don't rush to talk when you're before God. Don't be quick to make promises. Don't let your mouth run ahead of your brain. Think before you speak. Consider before you commit. Why? Because God is in heaven, and you're on earth. There's a distance there, a difference in position, a difference in power and knowledge and everything else. You're not equals having a casual chat. You're a human on earth speaking to the God of heaven. That should change how you talk. That should make you careful with your words. Therefore, because of who God is and who you are, let your words be few. Don't ramble. Don't make long speeches. Don't try to impress God with your vocabulary. Say what needs to be said and nothing more. Verse 3 explains the connection between busyness and foolishness. For a dream comes with much business, and a fool's voice with many words. When you're busy with too much stuff, when you're overwhelmed with tasks and responsibilities, you get weird dreams. Your mind is overloaded, and when you're a fool, you talk too much. You can't stop running your mouth. Both are connected. Too much activity leads to confusion, and too many words reveal foolishness. The wise person knows when to be quiet. Verse 4 addresses making promises to God. When you vow a vow to God, do not delay paying it, for he has no pleasure in fools. Pay what you vow. If you promise God something, if you make a commitment, do it quickly. Don't put it off. Don't delay. Don't make excuses. God doesn't like fools, and delaying your vow makes you a fool. You said you'd do it, so do it. Your word should mean something, especially when you're giving your word to God. Verse 5 gives the bottom line: it is better that you should not vow than that you should vow and not pay. Don't make promises you won't keep. It's actually better to say nothing at all than to promise something and then fail to deliver. If you're not going to follow through, don't make the vow in the first place. Silence is better than broken promises. The teacher turned back to political oppression, but this time he explained the system behind it. Verse 8 says, if you see in a province the oppression of the poor and the violation of justice and righteousness, do not be amazed at the matter, for the high official is watched by a higher, and there are yet higher ones over them. Don't be surprised when you see the poor getting crushed. Don't be shocked when justice gets denied and righteousness gets violated. Why does it happen? Because of the system. Every official is watched by someone higher up, and that higher person is watched by someone even higher. And on it goes. It's layers of bureaucracy, everyone protecting everyone else, everyone covering for the system, everyone making sure the structure stays in place. The little people at the bottom suffer, while the officials at every level maintain their power and position. That's how it works. That's why injustice continues. Verse 9 adds, but this is gain for a land in every way, a king committed to cultivated fields. At least a king who cares about farming, who focuses on agriculture and productivity, benefits the land. Even in this corrupt system, some leadership is better than complete chaos. A king who prioritizes food production helps everyone. Then verse 10 hits a universal truth about money. He who loves money will not be satisfied with money, nor he who loves wealth with his income. This also is vanity. You love money? You'll never have enough. No amount will satisfy you. You'll always want more. You'll always feel like you need just a little bit extra. You love wealth? Your income will never satisfy you. You could double it, triple it, multiply it by 10, and you still won't feel like it's enough. Why? Because the problem isn't the amount. The problem is the love of it. When you love money, it becomes a black hole that can never be filled. It's vanity. Verse 11 continues with another problem. When goods increase, they increase who eat them, and what advantage has their owner but to see them with his eyes? Get more stuff, and more people show up to consume it. You get wealthier, and suddenly you need more workers, more servants, more staff. Family members come asking for help. Friends need loans. Expenses multiply. What do you actually get from all your increase? Just the sight of it. You get to look at all your stuff while everyone else uses it, eats it, takes it. Your advantage is just watching it happen. That's it. Verse 12 shows the irony of wealth. Sweet is the sleep of a laborer, whether he eats little or much, but the full stomach of the rich will not let him sleep. The worker sleeps great. It doesn't matter if he ate a small meal or a big one. He worked hard, he's tired, he sleeps soundly. He's satisfied, but the rich person, he can't sleep. He's too full. He's too worried. He's thinking about his wealth, his investments, his problems. He's stressed about protecting what he has. His abundance actually prevents him from resting. Having more doesn't mean sleeping better. Often it means the opposite. The teacher witnessed something that bothered him deeply. Verse 13 describes it. There is a grievous evil that I have seen under the sun. Riches were kept by their owner to his hurt. Someone hoarded wealth, saved it, protected it, held onto it tightly. And it actually hurt him. It didn't help, it hurt. This isn't what's supposed to happen. Wealth is supposed to be good, right? It's supposed to help you, protect you, make your life better. But this man kept his riches, and they harmed him. That's a grievous evil, a serious problem. Verse 14 explains what happened. And those riches were lost in a bad venture. And he is father of a son, but he has nothing in his hand. Bad investment, bad business deal, some kind of disaster or misfortune. All the wealth disappeared. Everything he saved, everything he protected, everything he hoarded, gone. And now this man has a son. He's a father with a child to provide for, but he has nothing in his hand. Nothing to give, nothing to pass down. All that careful saving meant nothing in the end. Verse 15 reminds us of the basic reality everyone faces. As he came from his mother's womb, he shall go again, naked as he came, and shall take nothing for his toil, that he may carry away in his hand. You came into this world naked. You had nothing when you were born. And you'll leave the same way, naked with nothing. You can't take anything with you when you die. All that work, all that accumulating, all that striving, and you carry away exactly nothing in your hand. Empty-handed in, empty-handed out. Verse 16 calls this out directly. This also is a grievous evil. Just as he came, so shall he go, and what gain is there to him who toils for the wind? It's a serious evil, a fundamental problem with how we live. You arrive with nothing, you leave with nothing. So what did you actually gain by chasing wind? What was the point of all that work if you can't keep any of it? Verse 17 describes the quality of life this person had while he was here. Moreover, all his days he eats in darkness, in much vexation and sickness and anger. Look at how he lived. He spent his whole life eating in darkness. Not just literal darkness, but a dark life. A life without joy, without light, without happiness, much vexation, constant frustration, sickness, physical problems, maybe caused by stress, anger, always upset, always mad about something. That's what the pursuit of wealth gave him. Not joy, not peace, not satisfaction. Just frustration, illness, and rage. That was his life. After all these dark observations about wealth and work and suffering, the teacher offers something better. Verse 18 says, Behold, what I have seen to be good and fitting is to eat and drink and find enjoyment in all the toil with which one toils under the sun, the few days of his life that God has given him. For this is his lot. Look at this. Behold, pay attention to what's actually good. Here's what works. Eat, drink, and find enjoyment in all your work during the short life God gave you. That's your portion. That's your lot. That's what you get. Don't waste it being miserable. Don't spend your few days in darkness and anger. Enjoy them. Notice it says the few days of his life. Life is short. You don't have forever. These are the days you get, so find enjoyment in them. Find satisfaction in your work. This is fitting. This is appropriate. This is how life should be lived. Verse 19 expands on this idea. Everyone also to whom God has given wealth and possessions and power to enjoy them, and to accept his lot and rejoice in his toil, this is the gift of God. If God gives you wealth and possessions, and here's the crucial part, the power to enjoy them, and you can accept what you have and find joy in your work, that's a gift from God. It's not just about having stuff. Plenty of people have stuff and are miserable. It's about being able to enjoy it. It's about accepting your lot instead of always wishing you had someone else's life. It's about rejoicing in your work instead of hating every minute of it. That ability to enjoy, to accept, to rejoice, that's the real gift. Verse 20 reveals why this works. For he will not much remember the days of his life, because God keeps him occupied with joy in his heart. When God fills your heart with joy, you don't spend all your time thinking about how short life is. You're not constantly worried about death and meaning and the vanity of everything. Why? Because God keeps you occupied with gladness. You're busy enjoying life. You're busy being grateful. You're busy finding satisfaction in your work and your relationships and the simple pleasures of eating and drinking. God keeps you occupied with joy, and that changes everything. But then chapter 6 opens with a contrasting problem. Verse 1 says, "There is an evil that I have seen under the sun, and it lies heavy on mankind." Another evil, another problem. And this one lies heavy. It's a weight, a burden that presses down on people. Verse 2 describes it. "A man to whom God gives wealth, possessions and honor, so that he lacks nothing of all that he desires. Yet God does not give him power to enjoy them, but a stranger enjoys them." This is vanity. It is a grievous evil. God gives someone everything. Wealth, plenty of money. Possessions, all the stuff you could want. Honor, respect, reputation, status. This person lacks nothing. Nothing. If he desires something, he has it. He's got it all. And this is the tragedy. God doesn't give him the power to enjoy any of it. He has everything, but can't enjoy it. He looks at his wealth and feels nothing. He sees his possessions and finds no satisfaction. His honor means nothing to him. It's all empty. And then to make it worse, a stranger comes along and enjoys what this man worked for. Someone else gets the benefit. Someone else experiences the pleasure. Someone else finds satisfaction in what should have been his. This is vanity. This is a grievous evil. You can have everything and enjoy nothing. The ability to enjoy is a separate gift from God, and without it, all the wealth and possessions and honor in the world are meaningless. Chapter 7 opens with comparisons that seem backward at first. Verse 1 says, "A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of birth." Your reputation, your good name, is worth more than expensive perfume. And strangely, the day you die is better than the day you were born. Why would death be better than birth? Because at birth everything is unknown. You don't know what kind of life awaits you. But at death, if you lived well, your good name remains. People remember you well. The story is complete. Verse 2 continues this unusual wisdom. "It is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for this is the end of all mankind, and the living will lay it to heart." Better to go to a funeral than a party. Why? Because a funeral reminds you that everyone dies. That's the end waiting for all of us. And when you remember that, when you really take it to heart, it changes how you live. Verse 3 says, "Sorrow is better than laughter, for by sadness of face the heart is made glad." Sorrow is better than laughter. A sad face actually makes the heart better. When you face serious things, when you deal with real emotions, your heart grows. Laughter can be shallow. Sorrow goes deep. Verse 4 shows where wise and foolish people put their attention. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. Wise people think about serious things. They go to funerals. They consider death and meaning. Fools just want to party. They want to laugh and forget. They avoid anything heavy. Verse 5 makes another comparison. "It is better for a man to hear the rebuke of the wise than to hear the song of fools." Someone wise correcting you is better than fools singing to you. Correction helps you grow. Flattery from fools means nothing. Verse 6 explains why. "For as the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fools." This also is vanity. When you burn thorns under a cooking pot, they crackle loudly but produce little heat. They're all noise, no substance. That's what the laughter of fools is like. Loud, empty, meaningless. It's vanity. Verse 7 warns about what can corrupt even a wise person. "Surely oppression drives the wise into madness, and a bribe corrupts the heart." When a wise person starts oppressing others or taking bribes, they go crazy. They lose their wisdom. Corruption destroys what made them wise in the first place. Verse 8 talks about patience. "Better is the end of a thing than its beginning, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit." The end of something is better than the beginning because you can see the results. You know how it turned out, and being patient is better than being proud. Proud people rush. Patient people wait and see. Verse 9 warns against quick anger. "Be not quick in your spirit to become angry, for anger lodges in the heart of fools." Don't be easily provoked. Don't let anger take over quickly. Why? Because anger lives in the heart of fools. That's where it makes its home. Wise people control their temper. Verse 10 addresses nostalgia. Say not, why were the former days better than these? But for it is not from wisdom that you ask this. Don't sit around saying the old days were better. Don't romanticize the past. That question doesn't come from wisdom. It comes from forgetting that every time period has its problems. Verse 11 shows the value of wisdom. Wisdom is good with an inheritance, an advantage to those who see the sun. Wisdom is good, especially when combined with an inheritance. It benefits everyone who lives. Verse 12 continues, for the protection of wisdom is like the protection of money, and the advantage of knowledge is that wisdom preserves the life of him who has it. Wisdom protects you like money does, but wisdom has an advantage. It actually preserves your life. Verse 13 calls for reflection on God's work. Consider the work of God. Who can make straight what he has made crooked? Look at what God does. If God made something crooked, can you straighten it? No, you can't fix what God designed a certain way. Verse 14 gives instructions for good times and bad. In the day of prosperity be joyful, and in the day of adversity consider. God has made the one as well as the other, so that man may not find out anything that will be after him. When things are good, be happy, enjoy it. When things are bad, stop and think. Why? Because God made both days, the good and the bad. He arranged it so you can't predict what comes next. Verse 15 shares what the teacher observed. In my vain life I have seen everything. There is a righteous man who perishes in his righteousness, and there is a wicked man who prolongs his life in his evil doing. In his meaningless days he saw everything. Righteous people dying young despite their goodness. Wicked people living long despite their evil. Life isn't fair. Verse 16 warns against extremes. Be not overly righteous, and do not make yourself too wise. Why should you destroy yourself? Don't try to be super righteous. Don't try to be extremely wise. You'll destroy yourself with the pressure and the pride. Verse 17 warns the other direction. Be not overly wicked, neither be a fool. Why should you die before your time? Don't be extremely wicked either. Don't be a fool. That'll kill you early. Verse 18 gives the balanced approach. It is good that you should take hold of this, and from that withhold not your hand, for the one who fears God shall come forth from both of them. Grab onto both warnings. Don't let go of either. Fear God, and you'll navigate both extremes successfully. Verse 19 shows wisdom's power. Wisdom gives strength to the wise man more than 10 rulers who are in a city. Wisdom makes you stronger than 10 powerful rulers. It's that valuable. It gives you strength others don't have. Verse 20 states a hard truth. Surely there is not a righteous man on earth who does good and never sins. Not one righteous person exists who always does good and never sins. Nobody's perfect. Everyone messes up. Verse 21 gives practical advice. Do not take to heart all the things that people say, lest you hear your servant cursing you. Don't pay attention to everything people say about you. Don't take it all seriously. Why? Because you might hear your own servant talking bad about you, and it'll hurt. Verse 22 explains why you should let it go. Your heart knows that many times you yourself have cursed others. Your own heart knows the truth. You've talked bad about others many times. So why get upset when they do it to you? Verse 23 begins a new search. All this I have tested by wisdom. I said, I will be wise, but it was far from me. The teacher tested everything using wisdom. He decided he would become truly wise, but it stayed far from him. He couldn't quite reach it. Verse 24 admits the difficulty. That which has been is far off and deep, very deep. Who can find it out? Whatever exists, whatever truth is out there, it's far away. It's deep, really deep. Who can actually discover it? Who can figure it all out? Verse 25 describes his investigation. I turned my heart to know, and to search out and to seek wisdom and the scheme of things, and to know the wickedness of folly and the foolishness that is madness. He turned his whole heart to understanding. He wanted to search out wisdom and figure out how everything works. He wanted to understand why wickedness is foolish and why foolishness is madness. Verse 26 shares a dark discovery. And I find something more bitter than death, the woman whose heart is snares and nets, and whose hands are fetters. He who pleases God escapes her, but the sinner is taken by her. The teacher found something worse than death, a woman who traps people. Her heart is like snares and nets. Her hands are like chains. If you please God, you escape her. But if you're a sinner, she captures you. You get caught in her trap. Verse 27 explains his search process. Behold, this is what I found, says the preacher, while adding one thing to another to find the scheme of things. This is what he discovered while investigating one thing after another, trying to understand how everything fits together. Verse 28 reveals his shocking conclusion, which my soul has sought repeatedly, but I have not found. One man among 1,000 I have found, but a woman among all these I have not found. He kept searching and searching. Out of 1,000 people he found one upright man, but he didn't find one upright woman among all of them. Verse 29 gives the bigger picture. See, this alone I found, that God made man upright. But they have sought out many schemes. Here's what he actually discovered. God made humanity upright. God made people good, but people went looking for schemes. They invented ways to be corrupt. Both men and women turned away from how God made them. Chapter 8 verse 1 asks, who is like the wise, and who knows the interpretation of a thing? A man's wisdom makes his face shine, and the hardness of his face is changed. Who compares to a wise person? Who else can explain things? Wisdom lights up your face. It changes your hard expression into something better. Verse 2 gives advice about authority. I say, keep the king's command because of God's oath to him. Obey the king's command. Why? Because of the oath before God. There's a sacred commitment involved. Verse 3 warns, be not hasty to go from his presence. Do not take your stand in an evil cause, for he does whatever he pleases. Don't rush to leave the king's presence. Don't join an evil cause. The king has power to do whatever he wants. Verse 4 explains, for the word of the king is supreme, and who may say to him, what are you doing? The king's word is final. Nobody can question him. Nobody can say, what are you doing? His authority is absolute. Verse 5 promises safety in obedience. Whoever keeps a command will know no evil thing, and the wise heart will know the proper time and the just way. Obey the command, and you won't experience harm. A wise heart knows the right time and the right way to handle things. Verse 6 continues, for there is a time and a way for everything. Although man's trouble lies heavy on him, everything has its proper time and way. But here's the problem. Human trouble weighs heavy. We're burdened. Verse 7 shows our limitation. For he does not know what is to be, for who can tell him how it will be? We don't know the future. We don't know what's coming. And nobody can tell us how things will turn out. Verse 8 lists what we can't control. No man has power to retain the spirit or power over the day of death. There is no discharge from war, nor will wickedness deliver those who are given to it. You can't hold on to life. You can't control when you die. There's no escape from that battle. And wickedness won't save the wicked. Verse 9 describes what the teacher observed. All this I observed while applying my heart to all that is done under the sun. When man had power over man to his hurt, he watched everything while thinking carefully about all that happens in the world. He saw people exercising power over others, and it hurt them. Verse 10 points out an injustice. Then I saw the wicked buried. They used to go in and out of the holy place and were praised in the city where they had done such things. This also is vanity. He saw wicked people get buried with honor. These same people used to go in and out of the holy place like they were righteous. They were praised in the city where they did their evil. That's vanity. Verse 11 explains a dangerous consequence. Because the sentence against an evil deed is not executed speedily, the heart of the children of man is fully set to do evil. When punishment doesn't come quickly, when justice is delayed, people's hearts fill up with plans to do wrong. They think they can get away with it. Verse 12 acknowledges reality. Though a sinner does evil 100 times and prolongs his life, yet I know that it will be well with those who fear God, because they fear before him. A wicked person might commit 100 crimes and live a long time. That happens. But the teacher knows the truth. It will be well with those who fear God. They have reverence, and that matters. Verse 13 contrasts the wicked. But it will not be well with the wicked, neither will he prolong his days like a shadow. Because he does not fear God, it won't go well for the wicked. He won't extend his days. His life will pass like a shadow, quick and insubstantial, because he doesn't fear God. Verse 14 points out another vanity. There is a vanity that takes place on earth, that there are righteous people to whom it happens according to the deeds of the wicked, and there are wicked people to whom it happens according to the deeds of the righteous. I said that this also is vanity. Sometimes righteous people suffer like wicked people should. Sometimes wicked people prosper like righteous people should. Life gets reversed. That's vanity too. Verse 15 gives the response, and I commend joy. For man has nothing better under the sun, but to eat and drink and be joyful. For this will go with him in his toil through the days of his life that God has given him under the sun. So the teacher recommends joy. There's nothing better for people than to eat, drink, and be happy. This joy will accompany them in their work throughout their God-given days. Verse 16 describes another investigation. When I applied my heart to know wisdom, and to see the business that is done on earth, how neither day nor night do one's eyes see sleep. The teacher applied his heart to understand wisdom and observe all the activity on earth. He noticed people working day and night without sleep. Verse 17 reveals the conclusion. Then I saw all the work of God, that man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun. However much man may toil in seeking, he will not find it out. Even though a wise man claims to know, he cannot find it out. He saw all of God's work and realized something important. Humans can't figure it out. No matter how hard you search, you won't discover it. Even if a wise person claims they understand, they really can't find it out. Chapter 9, verse 1 continues the thought, but all this I laid to heart, examining it all, how the righteous and the wise and their deeds are in the hand of God. Whether it is love or hate, man does not know. Both are before him. The teacher carefully examined everything. The righteous, the wise, and everything they do are in God's hand. Whether you'll experience love or hate, you don't know. Both possibilities are ahead of you. Verse 2 shows what everyone shares. It is the same for all. Since the same event happens to the righteous and the wicked, to the good and the evil, to the clean and the unclean, to him who sacrifices and him who does not sacrifice. As the good one is, so is the sinner, and he who swears is as he who shuns an oath. The same thing happens to everyone. Righteous and wicked, good and evil, clean and unclean, religious and non-religious, they all face the same events. The good person and the sinner end up the same. The one who makes oaths and the one who avoids them both face the same fate. Verse 3 calls this an evil. This is an evil in all that is done under the sun, that the same event happens to all. Also, the hearts of the children of man are full of evil, and madness is in their hearts while they live. And after that, they go to the dead. This is the evil in everything under the sun. The same event happens to everyone. And people's hearts are full of evil. Madness lives in their hearts while they're alive. And then they die. Chapter 10 begins with a vivid image. Verse 1 says, dead flies make the perfumer's ointment give off a stinking odor. So a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. Picture expensive perfume, carefully crafted, smelling beautiful. Then a few dead flies fall in. The whole thing stinks. That's what foolishness does. Just a little bit of folly ruins wisdom and honor completely. Verse 2 shows the difference between wise and foolish thinking. A wise man's heart inclines him to the right, but a fool's heart to the left. The wise person's heart pulls them toward what's right. The fool's heart pulls them the wrong direction. Verse 3 reveals how obvious foolishness is. Even when the fool walks on the road, he lacks sense, and he says to everyone that he is a fool. A fool can't hide it. Even just walking down the street, he shows his lack of sense. He tells everyone without meaning to that he's a fool. It's that obvious. Verse 4 gives advice for dealing with angry rulers. If the anger of the ruler rises against you, do not leave your place, for calmness will lay great offenses to rest. If the ruler gets mad at you, don't quit. Don't abandon your position. Stay calm. Why? Because calmness can settle even big offenses. Staying composed fixes what panic would make worse. Verse 5 introduces an evil the teacher witnessed. There is an evil that I have seen under the sun, as it were an error proceeding from the ruler. He saw something wrong, a mistake coming from those in charge. Verse 6 describes it. Folly is set in many high places, and the rich sit in a low place. Foolish people get promoted to high positions. Rich people, presumably capable people, sit in low positions. Everything's backward. Verse 7 continues, I have seen slaves on horses and princes walking on the ground like slaves. Servants riding horses while princes walk on foot like servants. The world turned upside down. People in positions they shouldn't have, while those who should lead are treated like nothing. Verse 8 lists dangers in work. He who digs a pit will fall into it, and a serpent will bite him who breaks through a wall. Dig a pit for someone else, and you might fall in yourself. Break through a wall, and a snake might bite you. Actions have risks. Things backfire. Verse 9 continues, He who quarries stones is hurt by them, and he who splits logs is endangered by them. Cut stones from a quarry, and you might get injured. Split logs, and you're in danger. Even normal work carries risk. You can get hurt doing everyday tasks. Verse 10 talks about working smart. If the iron is blunt, and one does not sharpen the edge, he must use more strength. But wisdom helps one to succeed. If your axe is dull and you don't sharpen it, you have to work way harder. But wisdom helps you succeed. Wisdom says sharpen the tool, make the work easier. Verse 11 gives another example. If the serpent bites before it is charmed, there is no advantage to the charmer. If the snake bites before you charm it, what good is being a snake charmer? Timing matters. Skills don't help if you use them too late. Verse 12 contrasts wise and foolish speech. The words of a wise man's mouth win him favor, but the lips of a fool consume him. Wise words bring favor. People like you, people listen, but a fool's lips destroy him. His own words eat him up. Verse 13 describes how fools talk. The beginning of the words of his mouth is foolishness, and the end of his talk is evil madness. A fool starts talking foolishly, but by the end, it's turned into wicked madness. It gets worse as he keeps going. Verse 14 shows another problem with fools. A fool multiplies words, though no man knows what is to be, and who can tell him what will be after him. Fools talk and talk and talk. They multiply words endlessly. But here's the thing. Nobody knows the future. Nobody can tell you what will happen next. So why keep talking like you know? Verse 15 reveals a fool's basic incompetence. The toil of a fool wearies him, for he does not know the way to the city. A fool gets tired from his work, and he doesn't even know how to get to town. He can't find his way to the most basic destination. That's how lost he is. Verse 16 pronounces judgment on poor leadership. Woe to you, O land, when your king is a child, and your princes feast in the morning. Trouble comes to a land when the king is immature and the leaders party in the morning. They should be working, leading, but they're eating and drinking early in the day. Verse 17 shows the opposite. Happy are you, O land, when your king is the son of the nobility, and your princes feast at the proper time for strength and not for drunkenness. Blessed is the land with a king of noble character. When the leaders eat at the right time for strength, not to get drunk, things go well. Verse 18 describes what laziness does to a house. Through sloth, the roof sinks in, and through indolence, the house leaks. Be lazy, and the roof caves in. Be idle, and the house starts leaking. Things fall apart when you don't maintain them. Verse 19 acknowledges why people party. Bread is made for laughter, and wine gladdens life, and money answers everything. Food brings laughter. Wine makes life happy. And money? Money seems to solve everything. That's what people think. Verse 20 warns about cursing leaders. Even in your thoughts, do not curse the king, nor in your bedroom curse the rich. For a bird of the air will carry your voice, or some winged creature tell the matter. Don't curse the king even in your mind. Don't curse rich people even in your bedroom. Why? Because somehow, some way, your words will get back to them. A bird might carry your voice. Things have a way of getting out. Chapter 11 opens with bold advice. Verse 1 says, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. Throw your bread on the water." It seems wasteful, right? But you'll find it again after many days. Take risks. Be generous. It'll come back to you. Verse 2 encourages spreading your investments. Give a portion to 7 or even to 8, for you know not what disaster may happen on earth. Give portions to 7 people or even 8. Diversify. Why? Because you don't know what disaster might come. Don't put everything in one place. Verse 3 states simple facts about nature. If the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves on the earth, and if a tree falls to the south or to the north, in the place where the tree falls, there it will lie. Clouds full of rain will pour. A tree falls and stays where it landed. Some things just happen. They're inevitable. Verse 4 warns against overthinking. He who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap. If you're always watching the wind, waiting for perfect conditions, you'll never plant. If you're always looking at clouds, worried about rain, you'll never harvest. Stop waiting for perfect. Just act. Verse 5 reminds us of mystery. As you do not know the way the Spirit comes to the bones in the womb of a woman with child, so you do not know the work of God who makes everything. You don't know how life forms in the womb. You don't understand that mystery. Same way you can't understand everything God does. He makes everything and you can't figure it all out. Verse 6 urges constant action. In the morning sow your seed, and at evening withhold not your hand, for you do not know which will prosper, this or that, or whether both alike will be good. Plant seeds in the morning. Keep working in the evening. Don't stop. Why? Because you don't know which effort will succeed. Maybe the morning work, maybe the evening work, maybe both. So do both. Verse 7 celebrates life. Light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. Light is sweet. Seeing the sun is pleasant. Life itself is good. Verse 8 balances joy with reality. So if a person lives many years, let him rejoice in them all. But let him remember that the days of darkness will be many. All that comes is vanity. Live many years. Rejoice in all of them. Enjoy everyone. But remember, dark days are coming. Many of them. And everything that comes is vanity. Verse 9 speaks directly to young people. Rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and the sight of your eyes. But know that for all these things God will bring you into judgment. Young person, be happy while you're young. Let your heart bring you joy. Follow what your heart wants. Look at what your eyes see and go after it. But know this, God will judge you for all of it. Enjoy, but remember judgment is coming. Verse 10 gives urgent advice. Remove vexation from your heart and put away pain from your body, for youth and the dawn of life are vanity. Get rid of anger from your heart. Remove pain from your body. Why the urgency? Because youth and early life are vanity. They don't last. Chapter 12, verse 1 makes the main point. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near of which you will say, I have no pleasure in them. Remember your Creator while you're young. Do it before the bad days arrive, before the years come when you'll say, I don't enjoy these anymore. Verse 2 describes aging poetically. Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars are darkened, and the clouds return after the rain. Before everything goes dark for you. Before the sun, light, moon, and stars seem dim. before clouds come back right after rain, meaning troubles keep coming without relief. Verse 3 paints a picture of old age. In the day when the keepers of the house tremble, and the strong men are bent, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those who look through the windows are dimmed, the keepers of the house tremble, your arms and hands shake. The strong men are bent, your legs can't stand straight anymore. The grinders cease, you lose your teeth. Those who look through the windows are dimmed, your eyes don't see well. Verse 4 continues, and the doors on the street are shut when the sound of the grinding is low, and one rises up at the sound of a bird, and all the daughters of song are brought low. You close yourself off from the street. The sound of grinding, of eating, of daily activity gets quiet. You wake up at the slightest sound, like a bird chirping. Music doesn't sound as sweet anymore. Verse 5 describes the fears of old age. They are afraid also of what is high, and terrors are in the way. The almond tree blossoms. The grasshopper drags itself along, and desire fails because man is going to his eternal home, and the mourners go about the streets. Old people fear heights. They see dangers everywhere on the road. The almond tree blossoms, hair turns white. The grasshopper drags itself along. You walk slowly with difficulty. Desire fails. You don't want things anymore. Why? Because you're heading to your eternal home. And mourners are already walking the streets. Awaiting verse 6 gives final images before death. Before the silver cord is snapped, or the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher is shattered at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the cistern. Before the silver cord snaps, your life connection breaks. Before the golden bowl breaks, something precious and beautiful shatters. Before the pitcher breaks at the fountain, you can't draw water anymore. Before the wheel breaks at the well, the system stops working. Verse 7 states what happens at death, and the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Your body returns to dust, back to earth where it came from. Your spirit returns to God who gave it. That's the end. Verse 8 repeats the opening theme. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. All is vanity, vanity of vanities. Everything is vanity. The teacher comes full circle back to where he started. Verse 9 describes the teacher's work. Besides being wise, the preacher also taught the people knowledge. Weighing and studying and arranging many proverbs with great care, the teacher wasn't just wise for himself. He taught people. He carefully weighed ideas, studied them, and arranged proverbs. He took care in his work. Verse 10 shows his standards. The preacher sought to find words of delight, and uprightly he wrote words of truth. He looked for delightful words, pleasant to hear, but he wrote them uprightly, with honesty and truth. He didn't sacrifice truth for beauty. Verse 11 explains the purpose of wise words. The words of the wise are like goads, and like nails firmly fixed are the collected sayings. They are given by one shepherd. Wise words are like goads. They poke you, push you, get you moving. Collected sayings are like nails firmly fixed. They hold things together, stay in place. And they all come from one shepherd, God himself. Verse 12 warns the reader, "My son, beware of anything beyond these. Of making many books there is no end, and much study is a weariness of the flesh." Be careful about going beyond this wisdom. People keep making books endlessly, and too much study wears out your body. You can read and study forever and never finish. Verse 13 gives the conclusion of everything. The end of the matter, all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Here's the end. You've heard everything. Now here's what matters. Fear God, keep his commandments. That's the whole duty of humanity. That's what we're here for. Verse 14 explains why. For God will bring every deed into judgment, with every secret thing, whether good or evil. God will judge every deed, every single action, even secret things. Whether good or evil, everything gets judged. That's why fearing God and obeying him matters. Judgment is coming for everything. If this journey through Ecclesiastes opened your eyes to something new, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next biblical exploration. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that life under the sun isn't all there is. There's a God above the sun who gives everything meaning. Drop a comment below telling us which part of Ecclesiastes hit you the hardest. And remember, fear God and keep his commandments. That's not just the conclusion of this book, it's the foundation of a life that truly matters.